Gather round, fellas. It's story time. Yay!
What story is it today, Giss?
This story is called Don Hatt Cosmic Investigator.
That's me. And it goes like this. Monday morning, I just finished breakfast and started practicing some dance moves. Yada 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 yada. The end. What? No, that's not right. Just kidding. That's not how the story ends. Let's go back to the start. Monday morning, I just finished breakfast and started practicing some dance moves.
You can't touch this.
I was about to attempt the triple tiger sachet that I'd seen Cole perform on Lego Ninjago when my phone rang. I glided over to answer it. Don Hatt, private investigator. To my great surprise, it was a man from the moon. Mr. Hatt, he said, my name is Luna Jim from the Luna Space Colony. I've lost my robot dog and I need help finding him. I looked everywhere. On the dark side of the moon, Rover. In the crystal cave, Rover. In the compost crater, Rover. And of course in the eco dome, Rover. But he was nowhere to be seen. Will you help me, Mr. Hatt? It was a long way away, but I'd always wanted to visit the moon. I'll take the case, I said. I'd need to hire a rocket to get to the moon. I drove to the local launch pad. The moon, please. Up, up, up I went, into space. I could see everything through my window, the Earth below, the sun, and even planet Saturn. I waved to a comet with a fiery tail as I passed. When I landed on the moon, Luna Jim was waiting for me at the Luna station. Mr. Hatt, he said. Yes, I replied. You must be Jim. Pleased to meet you. Here you go, says Jim. Jim handed me a spacesuit. You'll need this for when we walk around on the lunar surface. Are you ready? Yes, let's go and look for clues, I said. We can take the lunar crawler vehicle with the searchlight attachment, said Jim. Let's
get Luna.
We drove around the lunar surface looking for clues. I spotted something suspicious in the distance. What could it be? A clue! Jim steered us over for a closer look. It was some sort of scorch marks in the lunar soil, like the ground had been blasted with high voltage. What do you think could have happened, Jim? I asked. Jim said, there's only one thing that could have made marks like these. A spaceship taking off at light speed using its hyperdrive. See how the marks are in an arc shape? The spaceship must have arc-shaped rocket blasters at the back. I took out my magnifying glass and had a closer look around the area. I found a small oval-shaped yellow object. Wait a minute. Who colored in this page?
Me.
You trickster. This thing is supposed to be yellow. A small oval-shaped yellow object and some red-colored dirt and pebbles. What do you make of this, Jim? I asked. Wait a minute, he said. That yellow thing is the battery pack from Rover's tail. Whoever is driving that spaceship must have taken him. What about this red dirt? I asked. Have you seen it before? No, but I can get Pixel to run a scan. She's our computer database. I'll contact her on my wrist monitor, said Jim. Yes, Jim, says Pixel. Pixel, can you please run a scan for any planets with red dirt on their surface? The voice on Jim's monitor said, processing.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, Jim. Parts of planet Earth are covered in red dirt, and most of the surface of another planet called Tatooine. Wait a minute. This planet is supposed to have a red surface, not a green surface. Was that you again, Spike?
Ha, I tricked you.
I don't think it's Earth, said Jim. No one there has a hyperdrive.
The spaceship must have come from planet Tatooine. Can we fly there in your rocket, Mr. Hat? Sure, I said. And call me Don. We launched the rocket and set the coordinates Pixel gave us for planet Tatooine. Whoosh! Into space. Nice coloring, Spike. It was a long journey. To keep busy along the way, Jim and I made a big robot out of Lego. Then we did pretend voices for him. I am a robot. Directive. Before we knew it, we were landing on planet Tatooine. We docked the rocket at a spaceport named Mos Eisley, where there were lots of other ships. Look over there, I say. We spotted a spaceship with arc-shaped rocket boosters at the back. It was covered in red dirt. Spike!
Ha ha.
Covered in red dirt. This must have been the ship that landed on the moon. We need to find the owner of that ship, I said. We went into a local cantina to ask around, but a couple of the fellas inside didn't look very friendly. He doesn't like you. I don't like you either, says the fella with the funny nose. They looked like they might attack us. What are we going to do? Asked Jim. Watch this, I said. Hi-ya! I sent those nasty fellas flying with some spinjitzu moves that I'd learned from Lloyd Garmadon on Lego Ninjago. Those are some neat moves, said a cheeky-looking rascal sitting in the corner. Thanks, I said. I'm looking for the owner of that ship at the port with the arc-shaped boosters at the back. She's my ship, the
Millennium Falcon.
Millennium Falcon. Why? Who's asking? Said the rascal. I am Don Hatt, private investigator, I said, offering my hand. Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, said the rascal, shaking with a firm grip. How can I help? I introduced Lunar Jim. This is Jim from Earth's moon. He's lost his robot dog Rover, and we think you might have taken him. That's right. I stopped on that moon to repair my hyperdrive and picked up a little robot dog. I didn't realize he belonged to anyone, said Solo. Can we have him back, please? Asked Jim. Sorry, fellas, I've already sold him, replied Solo. You see, that dog is made from a rare metal called adamantine, and he is very valuable. Who bought him? I asked. A large grey robot, said Solo. If it's any help, the robot used coins with this symbol on them. Jim gasped. That's a Decepticon symbol. What's a Decepticon? I asked. Jim said, they're a nasty bunch of robots that want to take over the universe. I've heard that they have a base on planet Cybertron, but that's light years away. That's right, said Solo. You'll never get there without a hyperdrive. Can you please take us? Asked Jim. Sure I can, but it'll cost you, said Solo. I looked at Jim. Neither of us had any money. We emptied our pockets. Not much to trade. Rover's tail battery, a few bits of moon rock and old popcorn, my trusty baseball, the keys to my rocket, and a detached Lego head. I dug around in my pocket again and found... What about this? It's a magic bean that can grow a giant beanstalk, I said. Interesting, says Han Solo. I handed over the bean that had been given to me by a strange old man. It'll have to do, said Solo. There are a couple of other fellas I've promised to take to planet Alderaan, but we can stop at Cybertron on the way. Come to my ship and meet the crew. Solo took us to his ship. It looked old, but he promised us it was fast. He introduced us to his crew. There was one big furry fella who made funny sounds when he talked. That's my first mate, Chewie, said Solo. The other two are Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who I'm taking to Alderaan. Are these the good guys or the bad guys, Spike?
The Google Wise.
Yeah, I thought so. Pleased to meet you, I said. We followed Solo onto the ship. I brought Mr. Robot along for the ride. Solo led us into the control room. Chewie prepared to engage the hyperdrive. Setting coordinates for planet Cybertron, said Solo. Hit it, Chewie! Whooshka!
We took off at light speed. The planets and stars zipped past us in a blur. We reached planet Cybertron in no time. Solo flew the ship into the atmosphere and cruised around until we saw something on the surface. What can that be? Said Solo. Chewie, let's bring it down over there. Mobilize the laser cannon in case it's something hostile. No, said Chewie. You told me you'd fixed it, snapped Solo. Said Chewie. Then mobilize the auxiliary cannon, said Solo. Here we go. We approached. A large grey robot was carrying cubes of glowing blue crystal over to what looked like some sort of gateway. He had a huge gun attached to his arm. A second robot with a spiky tail knelt at the gateway, making repairs.
The bad guys.
The grey one with the gun, said Solo. That's the robot that bought your dog. The old fellow named Obi-Wan Kenobi said, I sense a great imbalance in the force here. We must stop these robots from whatever they are doing. Let's take a short break here.
Get on with it, Giss.
What? Huh? Oh, okay. Where were we? The next part goes a little something like this. Why don't you just tell it exactly the way it goes, Giss? Oh, all right. The grey robot turned to face us. Who are these intruders? He snarled. That fella's supposed to have a deep voice, Giss. Oh.
Who are these intruders?
Not that deep.
Who are these intruders?
He snarled.
You dare interrupt Megatron?
That's Rover, cried Lunar Jim suddenly. Then we all saw it. There was a small robot dog perched between the two arms of the gateway. The arms crackled with high voltage. The air in between shimmered.
Yes,
Said Megatron.
the dog's adamantine body was just what we needed to complete our high voltage circuit. With these energon cubes, Steeljaw and I will activate the portal and summon the great Megatronus. Then nothing can stop us Decepticons from finally taking over the universe.
We can't let you do that, said Obi-Wan Kenobi. I noticed he was carrying a short silver and black cylinder in his hand.
Who's going to stop me, old man?
Said Megatron.
You?
The Decepticon fired his gun. Quick as a flash, Obi-Wan Kenobi raised the cylinder he was holding and pushed a button. A sort of light beamed out of the cylinder and blocked the gunshot. What an awesome weapon! Solo and Chewie started firing back at Megatron. Luke Skywalker took out another lightsaber. Jim and I took shelter behind some of the energon cubes. This was getting dangerous. I'm sorry I dragged you into this mess, said Jim. I never thought it would turn out like this. I said, it's all right, Jim. We're brave and we're in this together. We need to rescue Rover, but the portal is too smooth and highly charged to climb, said Jim. I had an idea. Back onto the ship. Maybe we can use the auxiliary cannon to destroy the portal, I said. We boarded the Millennium Falcon and entered the control room. But where were the controls for the cannon? I don't know beans about these controls, said Jim. That was it. Solo had left the magic bean I gave him on top of the control panel. We can use this to grow a giant beanstalk and climb up to Rover, I said. I grabbed the bean and Mr. Robot and went back outside. We started sneaking towards the portal, trying to avoid Megatron. But how would we get past the other Decepticon, Steeljaw? A shot from Megatron's gun struck Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in a shower of high-voltage sparks. One of the sparks touched Mr. Robot. I got a shock and dropped him. Then Mr. Robot came to life and stood up. I am a robot. Directive, said Mr. Robot. Defeat that Decepticon, I said, pointing at Steeljaw. Target acquired, said Mr. Robot. He toddled over to the portal. Then the cheeky little bugger kicked Steeljaw right in the bum. Cop this, he says. Steeljaw turned to face his attacker.
Do you surrender? Says Mr. Robot. While the Decepticon Steeljaw had his back turned, Lunar Jim planted the magic bean. The Cybertronian soil was so rich that the beanstalk burst from the ground immediately and rose high into the sky. Amazing, says Lunar Jim. He started climbing, but I hesitated. What's wrong? Asked Jim. I'm afraid of heights, I admitted. Jim said, You can do this, Don. I believe in you. Just stay close to me and don't look down. I took a deep breath and followed Jim. Steeljaw whacked Mr. Robot with a swipe of his tail and sent the little fellow flying. Ouch-ee, says Mr. Robot. Jim made it to the top of the portal and reached out to grab Rover. As he plucked the robot dog from between the portal's arms, the portal stopped crackling with high voltage. I heard Steeljaw growl in anger. Grrr. Jim screwed the yellow tail battery back onto Rover's tail, and the dog came to life with a series of beeps. I looked down and saw that Steeljaw and Megatron were coming up the beanstalk behind us. They wanted Rover back, but they weren't going to get him. They're after us, I cried. Quick, Jim, higher up the beanstalk. Maybe we can find refuge at the top. We climbed higher and higher, but we couldn't reach the top of the beanstalk. The Decepticons were closing in on us. It looked like they would catch us until Han Solo brought up the Millennium Falcon with its ramp extended. Climb aboard, boys, said Solo. He flew the ship in a circle and came back around to fire the auxiliary cannon. Boom! The cannon shot struck the beanstalk and snapped it like a twig. Megatron and Steeljaw went plummeting back to the surface. Prepare to engage hyperdrive, said Solo. Wait, I said, looking through the window. Mr. Robot is still down there. Obi-Wan Kenobi closed his eyes and raised his hand, as though he was using special powers. This fellow must have been some kind of wizard. Suddenly, Mr. Robot rose into the air and sped towards the Millennium Falcon. He floated into the control room and landed right in Obi-Wan's hand. Obi-Wan handed him to me. I thanked him and asked if he was a wizard. He said he was a Jedi Knight. I said to Han Solo, I'm sorry, we used the magic bean that was supposed to be your payment for the trip. That's okay, said Solo. We swiped a pile of energon cubes from those Decepticons. They can be used to power our hyperdrive. Hit it, Chewie! We raced back to Tatooine at light speed. We said goodbye to Solo and his crew and headed back to my rocket. Good luck on planet Alderaan, I called as the Millennium Falcon flew over our heads. Jim, Rover and I boarded the rocket and returned to Moon Lunar Space Colony. Rover was home again. We celebrated with a round of moon melon milkshakes that Jim's friend Eco made for us. Cheers, we say. That was one heck of an adventure, said Jim. Will you stay with us on the moon for a while, Don? I'd love to, but I'd better get back to Earth. There's bound to be another mystery waiting for me, I said. I gave Jim a fist bump and then returned to Earth in my rocket. As I was flying through the sky, I saw one fellow who was walking but not going anywhere. Silly duffer. And I saw a little curly-haired boy and his sister waving to me. I think that must be you, Spike, and Bubba Fia. The end. Did you enjoy that story, Spike? What about you, C-3PO? With Green Goblin's ears, Spider-Man's body, Anakin Skywalker's arm, Wonder Woman's lasso, Lloyd Garmadon's legs, and Batman's boomerang? Oh yes, splendid. I'm glad to hear it.